I was a huge Big Trouble in Little China fan as a kid, and I was absolutely thrilled to hear that Everything Epic had come out with a fairly epic-sized board game, complete with miniatures, for one of my favorite IPs. In this video, I'm going to tell you about my favorite and least favorite things, and maybe help you decide if you'd like to pick up the Big Trouble in Little China board game for yourself. Hello YouTube, this is Peck Tech, and look at this board. How could you not want to play this? This is Big Trouble in Little China by Everything Epic. You might notice I've got the gold box, which means that this is actually the deluxe version that you get from a pre-order. Unlike a lot of board games that I'll probably be showing you in the near future, this one did not kickstart. It did have a pre-order process where you could get this nicer box. I think all the stuff that came in this box you probably will be able to get in an expansion, because they talked about an expansion coming out soon. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's some of the things. You really didn't get a lot extra in here. Well, you got a couple of really cool things. One, you got 2 more playable characters, taking the player count from 4 to 6. And you also have a different sort of scenario that lays over the regular board, and it's called The Legacy of Lo Pan. And you actually travel back in time and go back and forth to try and defeat Lo Pan. Now, almost as soon as I got this game, I had to pull it out and really just try to figure out how to play it. And I won't lie, I was really intimidated. There are so many components to this game. I mean, this entire table is just filled with different components. By the way, this is a typical layout for a 4-player game, and it's got a lot of key components. Although it's sprawling like this, it might seem like it would have a really complex rule set, but that's just not the case. And what's awesome about this particular game and the company that made it is they have a YouTube channel with step-by-step instructions for how to actually set up the game. In fact, I watched it again as a reference for setting up the board. But they have instructions for setting up the game, and all the different game mechanics are clearly outlined there. It's a great resource, and I'll include a link to them in the description down below. But it's not worth it to really explain like every rule that goes with this game, but I thought maybe discussing the mechanics might be kind of neat. Not only does each player have a miniature to represent who they are, they also have a little dashboard that sort of keeps track of different things. Throughout the game, your character has the ability to level up. He can do this by moving up with his chi. Basically, you destroy something and you get extra chi. And once you get to 10, you level up and it goes back to 0. And it just gives you extra stuff. You also have a health bar that runs opposite the chi bar, of course. This is a cooperative game, but there is no player elimination. If your health bar goes all the way to 0, it simply goes back to 10, and then you pick up a hell card. Now, these hell cards are interesting. They kind of alter your stats in a unique way. Most of the time, they're meant to be like really amusing and funny, and they don't hurt you like in a game-ending kind of way. And with everybody working together and nobody really able to just die their way out of the game, it does tend to move things along. And really keeps it entertaining for everybody. You know, I don't know about you, but I'm the type of person that can, through a series of bad rolls, can just end up killing a character right away. There is a fair amount of randomness to this in that there are dice that are thrown, and the amount of certain types of dice give you certain advantages in being able to move further or do more actions or attack more effectively. But what's interesting is they have another mechanic that sort of offsets it, again with more dice. But these are fate dice, and they can alter the dice that you've already rolled. See, after you use a fate dice, you get 1 per turn unless there's something else going on, so some special ability. But you get 1 per turn. And after you use it, you roll it again, and you consult the chart up here. Sometimes nothing happens, and other times awful things happen to those around you, or possibly yourself. At first glance, with all these things out here, the game seems overly fiddly. It's got a lot of moving parts, there's a lot of things to keep track of, but it's really not too bad. In fact, after the initial setup, which I'm not going to lie, is immense. You know, even after pulling this out 3 or 4 times, it still took me 15 minutes to sort of sort out all the stuff that I needed for a 4-player game. Well, once the initial setup is done and it's ready to play, it really just makes sense. And it really isn't that difficult to kind of understand how to do things and where to go. I mean, the basic mechanics of movement and rolling and kind of buying your actions through the dice and that sort of thing, it just tends to click. It really wasn't a concept that was that hard to pick up on. Now, this game is actually a storytelling game too. Now, it does, of course, go through a lot of the scenarios of the movie, but through this little book here, you have the ability to kind of go off script. You could do things that you didn't see in the movie and unlock all kinds of really cool stories, different things that are just a lot of fun to work your way through. Now, strategy-wise, my advice to you is in the first act, really go after these objectives. If you kind of quasi go after the objectives, you really won't be in as good a position when the map flips over. And there are not that many rounds in which to take out Lo Pan. So there is a timer, there is a clock ticking, not only on this side of the board with the Big Trouble track and the Audacity track, but on the other side of the board, Lo Pan just kind of clicks down on you. And you really don't have that many turns to take care of all the bad guys and get to Lo Pan. But every time you complete an objective, that secondary objective when the board flips is a little bit easier for you. Also, there are items and stuff in these different restaurants. These are great, and a lot of times these are great to hold on to the second round. These items that you pick up can just kind of give you that little bit of extra something as you move in for the big fight. But what's great is you can explore all over. It's a really open map. You don't have to go for your objectives at all. You can just kind of wander around, pick up items, or go for these secondary objectives. But I think you're always going to be in a much better spot if you just go ahead and go for your character-based objectives and just get them complete. I was really surprised at the amount of space that this game can take up. It's really fairly immense just to pull it all the way out. And if I had a couple more players, I'd be even that little bit of extra space I have now would be used up. Now, I'm not complaining because I want it to be a big, epic game. I want it to be a really full adventure, and they definitely give you that. There's a lot of replayability built into that quest book. So, in theory, every time you play the game, it could be like a really different story. It is going to make for a dedicated game night. Is that not only does it take 2 hours to play a game of this, but you got to factor in probably another 30 minutes to take it up and put it back down. But is it worth it? I'd say so, especially if you were a big fan. I really love the miniatures that they came with. I found that they were they're kind of a low resolution. And one thing I'd really love to see is perhaps a resin version of this. If they made an expansion, something I think would be really cool is the option for maybe resin versions of especially the real characters. One big thing with these miniatures is that Jack Burton's his logo was kind of raised up on his shirt a little bit to kind of help you paint that, but I didn't find that I was able to. Maybe I just couldn't see it, or maybe I primed it a little bit too heavy, which I tried to prime it as light as I could. I just could not really see the t-shirt design in there. I tried to ink it and try to dry brush it and stuff like that, and so I ended up just kind of doing some weird lines that sort of approximated the t-shirt, and it doesn't look that great. In fact, with a lot of these things, the faces are kind of indistinct. They're not the best quality made miniatures, but like for what they are, they're really neat. And if you're a big fan of the character, you'll take a Jack Burton miniature, a properly made Jack Burton miniature any day of the week. I'd love to see these made out of metal or resin, though. I'd definitely buy another set and maybe be a little bit more careful when I was painting them. Another thing that's kind of a downer, but not really, is like the Hatchet Men and really all the gang members and stuff. They're all the same pose throughout so all the Hatchet Men are the same dude, and all the six-shooter guys are the same guy. And what is it? The Lords of Death, that other gang, they're all the same character. And it's kind of like they picked one iconic frame from the movie, and they just like, okay, everybody is him. But that's not a big deal in a game like this. I mean, really your job is just to kind of mow through them. And they do have a lot of unique characters overall. If you include all the heroes, the three storms, You got the little watcher guys, which kind of look like beholders, and of course the wild man and Lo Pan himself. So it's a wide variety of characters, and if you're a big fan, it's a lot of fun to paint them. I would say even if you hadn't seen the movie, you probably could have a good time playing with this. This game really has a great sense of humor, and a lot of it's taken from the movie itself. But I love that it just takes all the stuff that would normally kind of make a game like this really cumbersome and makes it kind of light. This, from the special abilities to the wording on things and in the quest book and the way things are laid out there. It lets the story that's possible in a game like this really come out, and I think that makes it a little bit different. And that, folks, is Big Trouble in Little China by Everything Epic. I definitely give it a thumbs up, not only because I'm a fan of the movie, but I think the different mechanics that they have involved here really balance well and make it a lot of fun. And so I'm definitely giving it a big thumbs up. So set aside about 2 or 3 hours and have fun playing Big Trouble in Little China. Till next time, I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Growing up, one of my favorite games, and this particular board game by the company Everything Epic is everything epic you can imagine. To see the Everything Epic version of this thing coming to be with miniatures painted. Now as a kid, okay. Now as I've loved the. Okay, shut. Like PackTech always says. I don't know what to say. But like PackTech always says, if you want to see it, you'll just have to wait.